Zach adjusted the blinds of the safe house's single window, casting a lattice of shadows and sunlight across the room. The glow illuminated Angela Holwood's pale but determined face as she sank into a threadbare armchair that had seen better days. She clutched a mug of coffee like a lifeline, steam curling up towards her bruised cheek, but one of her captors had struck her. Zach felt a twinge of pity for the woman, knowing full well the terror she must have endured. "Thank you, Agent Force," Angela murmured, her voice flecked with the remnants of fear. "I don't know what will happen or what would have happened if you hadn't come for me." "Call me Zach." His expression remained stoic despite the monstrum of emotions churning within him. He pulled out a small digital recorder from his jacket pocket, clicked it on, and placed it on the scarred coffee table between them. "Tell me everything," he said, the words more of a gentle command than a request. Angela took a deep breath, her fingers tightened around the ceramic. "It started with a surprise conversation with a stranger while I was buying groceries," she began, her gaze distant, as if reliving the nightmare. "A man, his face was well hidden behind sunglasses and a thick beard, offered me $20 million to assist on a classified project." A humorless laugh escaped her lips. $20 million to sell my soul." She paused, shaking her head. "I knew something was off. I turned him down, tried to forget about it." But her voice trailed off as she glanced towards the window, as though expecting masked figures to appear at any moment. "Then they came for me." Her words were punctuated by the click of her mug touching the table. "Masked men, armed, efficient. They burst through my door like a tempest, sweeping me away in seconds." Her eyes met Zach's of silent plea for understanding or perhaps forgiveness. Zach's jaw tightened, his hand involuntarily forming a fist. "And the device?" he asked. The mention of the device triggered a visible shudder in Angela. They kept me in the basement. Nothing but workbenches and equipment. They told me what to build. Watched my every move. They were planning to use it to sabotage a nuclear facility." "Montrose," Zach said, the word tasting like ash in his mouth. "That's right." Angela's voice broke, and she wrapped her arms around herself. "They used it to trigger the meltdown. Those people, those poor innocents who died." She choked back the sob, her eyes brimming with tears. "I never wanted this. I'm a psychiatrist, not a terrorist." "I know," Zach said. "You didn't have a choice." He reached over, placing a confident hand on Angela's shoulders. "This isn't on you. It's on them." Angela nodded, wiping her tears with the sleeves of her faded sweater. Zach withdrew his hand. "I know. Still, I can't help wondering if I should have just resisted. Should have let them kill me. They told me the device was just meant to be used as a threat, a bargaining chip, never an actual weapon." Zach's stern gaze softened at her words. He's seen this story unfold too often. Good people caught in the grisly web of immoral men. "You did what you had to, Angela," he said, his voice resolute. "You survived, and now we have a chance to make things right." The room lapsed into silence, disturbed only by the distant hum of city traffic filtering through the window. Zach stood abruptly, pacing towards the window and gazing out onto the deserted road below. He turned back to face Angela. "Do you think they were planning to use you again for fortune? Tax, I mean?" She looked at him, her pale face etched with fatigue and fear. "Yes," she whispered, the word fraught with certainty. they mentioned other projects, but I don't know any specifics. They kept me in the dark about their broader intentions. Zach nodded, feeling the familiar clench of frustration in his gut. Her lack of knowledge was a dead end they couldn't afford. His gaze sharpened as he pressed on. Anything you can remember could be vital. Locations, code names, anything. Angela shook her head slowly, her tangled hair catching the light. I'm sorry, they were miraculous about keeping things compartmentalized. I only knew what they needed me to know. He signed to turn off the recording. Thank you, Angela. You've been very helpful. Now get some rest. There's a bed in the other room. You've been through hell. Angela nodded and rising and gave him a tentative, grateful smile before leaving the room. After she gone, Zach pulled out his secure phone and dialed an encrypted frequency containing both Director Murdoch and Riley, the two women answering only moments apart. What is it, Agent Force? Liz asked. What have you learned from Dr. Horowitz? Angela's confirmed her Force involvement in the Montreux sabotage. Jack began pacing the length of the room as he spoke, but that's all she knows. It's clear the terrorists have more planned, but we're blind to details. I told you, refused to wait for backup, Liz said. Don't you remember our last conversation? I made a judgment call, Zach said, growing agitated. A woman's life was at stake, and so is yours. You have to start gambling with your life, Zach. You won't always get lucky, he said. I understand your concern, but with all due respect, I need you to trust me on this. I'm getting results. There was a pause and a silence. Sketch talked across the unseen miles. Finally, Liz exhaled audibly, her voice softening. All right, but you keep me informed every step of the way. Understood? Of course. And you keep Agent Carter in the loop. Naturally. I keep an eye on him, Riley said, her voice infused with protective resolve. Good, it said, and though she sounded less than satisfied, I let you two discuss next step. I have to give a report, even I report to someone, believe it or not. With that, Liz left the call. Riley, Zach said, within the phone, his voice low and steady. I've been thinking. Remember that Metro card we found in Leo Grad's belongings? It made sense they're straight there. It's the pulse of the city. If they're looking to instill fear, that's where I hit. You might be right, Riley said, but that's a vast network in the specific lines or stations. Zach considered. Well, no. So what makes you think they wouldn't attack another nuclear facility? Maybe they're planning to go after nuclear facilities across the country, shut down the power grid, all while spreading radiation and panic. Zach had to admit it was an interesting theory, and viable given the previous attack. Maybe, he said, scratching the stubble on his chin. But Andrews mentioned other projects suggest diversity. I don't think redundancy is their style. Wait, Andrew's voice sliced through their strategizing unexpectedly sharp. She was standing in the doorway, a haunted look etched upon her face. I remember something, a phrase they kept repeating. The heart would stop beating. Zach turned, studying her face. What heart? It could be talking about the metro, Riley said. It's the heart of the city. And if it stops, the city stops. Or as Zach said, now arguing against his earlier theory. It could be talking about the nation's heart, D.C. Nobody spoke for several moments. Yes, it made sense that they would strike at the heart of the country where they could do the most damage. If that's the case, Riley said, what's the target? The White House, Capitol building? Too many options, Zach answers. We sweep to the major landmarks, start evacuation protocols. Zach, Riley interjected. her boy's sperm. We can't just evacuate the entire city based on a hunch and encrypted phase. I know, he admitted, it's for frustration evident, but we need to do something, and we will, rather assure him. But it's going to be miraculous work. We need to trace back every deed, identify patterns, put together a profile of these terrorists. Their target isn't random. It was chosen for reason. We find that reason. We find the target. Silence lingered in the room as Zach mulled over her words. The question is, Riley said, how do we do that? Zach straightened and met her gaze, a plan taking shape in his mind. I know just the person who can help us, he said.